Hi folks, a bit of a different video today. I thought I'd share a little bit of what I've been able to achieve in the last few weeks. Nothing major, but cheese and chalk compared to where I was only a month ago. So what you're seeing behind me, up on the shelves, is currently a number of the various supplements and all sorts of good stuff that I've been taking to help improve myself. But what this video is going to be about is actually what's underneath it, the shelf. So I love DIY. I don't do any trade or anything like that for my day job. I think I mentioned in previous videos that I'm actually trained as a rocket scientist, did my PhD in the visualization of hypersonics. But I grew up on a farm, and since we bought our own house, I've just loved doing DIY around the house. We have a small backyard. I love getting out in the backyard and doing stuff. And that's been missing from my life for the past 12 months, or over 12 months actually. So something simple like putting up a shelf was beyond me for pretty much this whole time. And part of the reason for that was not only the physical limitations that I was experiencing, the various chest pains and the exercise intolerance and the fatigue, but probably the biggest impediment was the brain fog. And just being able to go through the calculations and remembering what the mark on the wall meant. You know, you have to draw marks on the wall where you want to drill a hole, and remembering, well, what did that mean? Was it going to be a screw in there? Was it going to be a wall plug? Or was there something else I needed to do at that spot? And so the whole process was just dramatically slowed down because of the brain fog. And I remember early on trying to do these shelves, and I was literally for days wondering what the heck I was supposed to be doing. And it was just incomprehensible to be able to solve this problem of putting up a few simple shelves, even though it is a really simple DIY job. So just after Christmas, I took myself off to like a hardware store and I grabbed the materials that I needed. And that in itself was an achievement, working out what materials I needed, and having measured everything up correctly and knowing how much of each of the shelving, the planks that I'd need, and knowing that I'd need to cut them as well. And so that was a big achievement. And then actually putting them up was great. It took me a couple of days because I actually found a few interesting issues inside the wall once I started drilling. But so there you go, that's the first shell, and I've gone around the rest of the room as well, as you can see, and put these shelvings up. So that's what I was able to do inside, but what is perhaps an even bigger achievement is what I was able to do outside over the last number of days. So yeah, come and have a look. Here I am in my backyard, and got my sun hat on. It's the middle of summer here in Australia, and currently 32 degrees Celsius, which is about 90 Fahrenheit for those of you living in the backwoods country. Oh, sorry, United States. A little bit of a cheeky dig there. So right here, I used to have a tree, and I wanted to put a different tree here, and the tree that was here was not doing too well. So I wanted to move it. So we're talking hard work. I didn't use machinery, just used brute force. And I dug up the tree, as you can see there's a hole there. That was good fun digging it up to make life a bit easier. Here in Canberra, the soil is usually pretty rubbish. It's very clay, lots of stones, and so it's hard work digging it up. But I wanted to do that all by hand. I love doing that type of work by hand. And so I softened the soil first with a lot of water. Even so, the roots were pretty well established. Some of them were quite deep and spread out a long way. And the tree itself was way above my height. So it gives you an idea of the size tree we're talking about. And so I transplanted that to a different spot. And you can see here, I had to dig a huge hole there to put it in. And it's even in this heat, it's not doing too well. You can see the leaves. I'm hoping it survives. I don't really care. I was going to get rid of it otherwise, but it was a good exercise. But the main point is, there's no way I could have done this a few weeks ago. It's a very physical, demanding task, and being able to get myself organised to think about the steps involved. And there's not many steps involved. 1, dig a hole for transplanting the tree. 2, go and dig up the old tree. 3, move the tree. It's pretty simple stuff. But even simple stuff like that is just so difficult to comprehend when you're struggling with brain fog. So here I am back inside. That type of work, while along the way I was able to do little things in the garden, I very quickly reached a limit where I either started to get dizzy, started to increase in chest pains, or my body just physically stopped. It's hard to explain. And we call it exercise intolerance. And it's like your body's still working, but there's no juice there to deliver energy. And even though I was eating okay and otherwise, my blood work seemed to be fine, my body had trouble delivering energy when I needed it, other than very basic functioning. And so obviously over the last few weeks, something has improved within my body to enable me to deliver sustained high bursts of energy when I needed it. Not just aerobic work, not just those strength bursts, but the combination of the two. So when I was out in the backyard digging the holes for those trees and digging the tree out, that was pretty hard work and pretty sustained during the middle of the heat. The heat in the middle of the day. So clearly something has been repaired or mended in my body to enable me to do that. Now, sadly, a lot of people still, 18 months, 2 years after their vaccine injury, are still struggling with that type of, well, they wouldn't do that work, but basic type of physical functioning is extremely difficult for so many people. And so this is why we want really good research, not just reports to our government drug regulators, but we need thorough investigations. It continually baffles me that we submit a report to our drug regulator with a whole slew of very serious symptoms. Very, very rarely do we actually have a diagnosis, but we have some serious symptoms, and they are continuing and they are unabating for months. And we sometimes update those drug regulators and let them know this has been months. And what do they do with that information? Zero. It's all just statistics to them. You'd think if they're the ones who are monitoring these adverse reactions and they're the ones who are advising the public on what's going on, that they would be interested in these types of symptoms and would mount proper investigations. And what I mean by proper investigations is arranging for people like myself and the other members of COVERSE and the many, many thousands of other people around Australia and around the world to go into specialised laboratories, do a whole bunch of targeted specialised tests on our blood work, on our tissue, a whole bunch of scans, the types of things that might not happen in a hospital or typical pathology setting. But none of that happens. So I am adamant that our drug regulators and governments have little to no basis for the claims of vaccine safety, because they're not following up, they're not investigating, they have absolutely no idea what's happening with us, and nor are they caring to look into it. Now, I've been lucky, and I was talking with the COVERSE team during the week that, when I speak to people at the moment, I'm getting a bit of survivor's guilt, because I have been able to, expand my life dramatically over the last few weeks and get back a little bit of normality. But so many are still struggling, and our governments are doing nothing. And that's one of the motivations behind COVERSE and similar organisations around the world. We need people who've got resources, we need scientists, we need them to come together and actually mount serious investigations and then be transparent about it to the entire public. Because, I submitted my adverse events, it was about a month after I started experiencing my symptoms, and I continued to report for quite some time afterwards with updates. But what did the government tell the public about what was going on? Nothing. So from my perspective, anybody who was injured after me, then that is on the government. They failed to investigate my case. They failed to inform the public of this potential adverse reaction. But even my case was after many others. So even myself, I was not properly informed, because nobody investigated the people that came before me. And this is the real insidious aspect to this whole saga, is we trust these agencies, we trust our government to do right by us, to protect us from the products and the pharmaceuticals companies who might take liberties with the developments and claims of safety and efficacy of these products. But when the rubber hits the road, what do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Anyway, that's it for now, and our next video we'll talk about something completely different. Okay, bye-bye.